cabin crew, prepare for takeoff.
Please welcome the president of GBTA, Denise Trousseau.
I got this feeling inside my bones.
Happy Monday and welcome back to Main Stage here in San Diego. So good to see all of you out here again today. Thank you again to last night's evening opening reception sponsors: Enterprise Holding, Air Canada, Lufthansa Group, United for Business, and Accor. Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed a taste of San Diego, both the refreshments and the beverages, and the food. Maybe too many beverages last night for me. We'd also like to recognize American Express Global Commercial Services for sponsoring today's morning session, where we talk about the future of work and winning the war on talent. At last year's convention, I shared with you the mission of the GBTA Board of Directors. And today, we remain committed to those promises. Working together has been the critical driver enabling us to continue to reimagine and recreate our industry and our association. During the recent GBTA annual meeting, we've reflected on the progress we've made in 2021. Our focus has been on helping our industry navigate through this global pandemic, moving the association forward into a new era of trust, transparency, and relevance. The industry is on the path to recovery, and now GBTA has emerged stronger and better, and we hope you all agree with us. We've recreated how we work together as a team with better collaboration among the board, leadership, and volunteers. Even in a challenging year, GBTA has ended 2021 on a solid financial footing. With increased membership, we've delivered programs to our members globally that help us tackle what lies ahead. We've also focused on our top-led initiatives, including our global chapters, committees, Win It, and ladders. We continue to strive to be better through guidance, governance, and communication. And we are truly collaborating and delivering together on GBTA's future success. Helping us reunite and restart the global industry has been the forefront. GBTA continues to be a sought-after leader, providing data analysts and insights onto the road to recovery. We focused on advocacy efforts that have helped us lift policy border changes and lifting restrictions in travel around the world. The progress we continue to make would not be possible with each and every one of you. As a member of an organization, the board is focused on continuing to listen and deliver on what our members need, to reimagining our future, and the collaborative working together depends on it as one team. As the GBTA Board of Directors, we want to continue hearing from you. So please ensure that you reach out to us via the GBTA website, where you can find all of our email addresses. This convention marks the end of terms for 3 of our board members: Philip Pena, Connie Smith, and Rita Visser. I want to personally recognize them each for their talent, their passion, and contributions. Their support and advisement during the last year, when we were presented with unique challenges, has also been great opportunities for us to look forward. Their shoes are big shoes to fill. And that's why we're asking every member of GBTA to make sure that you cast your vote for the 1 open allied seat and 2 direct member seats. And also, we have another revision to our bylaws based on member feedback, so please ensure you cast your votes. Voting closes today at 2 p.m. San Diego time, so please make sure you take the time to vote. I will be announcing the winners in tomorrow's main stage session. On behalf of the Board of Directors, thank you all for the privilege of leading GBTA.
Ladders is a mentorship program. It's a team-based mentorship program for GBTA, and it consists really of 3 pillars. So you've got your professional development, we do networking, and then there's the team-based case competition. So each team will do a project presentation on a certain theme or topic for the season, and the winner gets to present at GBTA at our education session.
The Ladders program is unique in that it is team-based mentoring. It's about expanding cross-vertical understanding.
Within the teams, we mix people within their verticals, but also where they're located as well, so that you're getting a real diversity of thought. So for me, it's really expanded my network within the North American market.
I think the people who really get the most out of it are the ones showing up to the virtual networking sessions or the professional development webinars, showing up for their team, really taking advantage of every different aspect of Ladders. You really reap the rewards exponentially.
Please welcome the Vice President and General Manager of American Express Global Commercial Services, Terry Bodenstein.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Bodensteiner. I'm a Vice President and General Manager at American Express Global Commercial Payments. And I lead a team of professionals focused on helping companies with payment solutions in travel and entertainment, as well as B2B supplier payments. How does it feel here to be in San Diego this week? I think it's pretty cool because normally I'd be on a Zoom call right now, so I kind of dig being here with all of you. After a very challenging past few years, it is so great to be looking ahead with optimism about the future, which is why, on behalf of American Express, I'm thrilled to be sponsoring this important panel about the future of work. You know, our industry faces unique challenges, but we're also grappling with the same issues everyone else is, such as attracting and retaining top talent, navigating the return to office, and taking our employees' differing needs into account when we're making decisions about the future of our companies. At American Express, from the very start of the pandemic, our #1 priority was to support the safety and health of our colleagues. In response to COVID and in support of providing working flexibility, we introduced Amex Flex. As a large company with many different functions and job types, there is no one single approach that will work best for every team. So the idea behind Amex Flex is that we're building in more flexibility by offering 3 work options: hybrid, on-site, and fully virtual, to best accommodate our colleagues' needs. So far, we've seen great success in the US and continue to roll out this program to other regions. At American Express, the future of work for many of us means working some days from our home, perhaps in the backyard or in the den, other days working from a company conference room or from a customer site. In April, Amex was ranked 8th on Fortune magazine's Great Place to Work list of the 100 best companies to work for in 2022. It marks our 3rd consecutive year in the top 10. These consistent rankings reflect American Express's focus on providing a great colleague experience each and every day. Our aim is to be great to work for and great to work with. I hope you'll connect with me and our 30 colleagues who are here at GBTA while you're at the conference. Please drop by our booth, which is located between American Express Global Business Travel and the SkyTeam Plus Delta Partners booths. I encourage you to stop by for a coffee and stay for a chat. And please take the opportunity to listen to my colleague, Ms. Courtney Ring, who is a panelist at the Collaboratory Spotlight session at 10 a.m. on challenges and opportunities for business travel. But before you do any of that, let's hear from Seth Madison, the internationally recognized workforce strategist. He's followed by our panel of CEOs, Scott Wayne, founder of Envoy, Bob Jordan, the CEO of Southwest Airlines, and Chrissy Taylor, president and CEO of Enterprise. At American Express, we work with Scott, Bob, and Chrissy and know firsthand how thoughtful they are. This is going to be a great session. Thank you.
Please welcome our keynote speaker, Seth Madison.
Let's go, let's go, let's go! Come on now! First and foremost, can we give Terry another round of applause for sponsoring American Express? Thanks, Terry. Great conversation to kick off this morning. So my name is Seth Madison. I lead an organization called Future Sight Labs, and we have just one very specific and simple mission with our work, and that is to help leaders prepare for and build the future of work. Now, obviously, everybody in this room knows the future of work has gotten thrust into the zeitgeist of the moment, hasn't it? In fact, my biggest fear is that you've read so many articles about it that you're sick of it at this point. But my hope is that you're not, and that we will reveal some perspective today, some research that you've not seen through any channel. Now, when I think about where we're at right now today, 2.5 years post-pandemic, August of 2022, I think we're at an inflection point. And I'll tell you why. Just a really critical moment in time. If you think about it, we have all essentially powered through the last 2.5 years. All the fear, all the uncertainty, right? We made all the changes. Did anybody make a couple of changes in the way they work and live? Raise your hands if you made a few changes over the last 2.5 years, right? Yes, we did everything that was asked. We got the ring lights, we set up our home offices, we figured out how to do this thing. And of course, then we've got many people in the room who weren't able to go home, that were on the front lines. Can we give a round of applause for our essential workers? People didn't have a choice. We found new ways of working, new ways of leading, made all the changes, and the sense I get from so many leaders today. In fact, I was so thrilled. Terry and I were chatting backstage. He was not one of the leaders with this sentiment, but I talked to a lot of leaders, and there is this sometimes subtle and sometimes not so subtle sort of ethos or mindset of we got through it, and now we can get back to normal. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. There is nothing to go back to. That world is gone. I mean, you can give a round of applause for that if you want. That world is gone. For better or for worse, that world is gone. Why? Because we have changed. We have changed as people. We've changed as a society. We've changed the way we work. We've changed the way we create and deliver value for our customers. How many of you had to evolve your value proposition to the marketplace through the past 2.5 years? You had to, it's find new ways to make this thing work. Yes, all of us. So that means we have to get down to the important and hard work of building the future of work now. And the stakes have never been higher to get it right. And what do I mean by that? The stakes have never been higher. Well, they've never been higher for a couple of reasons. To really dial in a future that we can be enthusiastic, excited, and proud of. And I think it's a future that needs to be human-centered and heart-led and freedom-infused, that will support and sustain us all moving forward. And there's a lot at stake. Number one, every one of us in this room we are all working harder and harder to keep our existing talent and teams engaged in a moment in time when the global engagement is at its lowest level in a decade, where voluntary quit rates are 25% higher than they were pre-COVID. And of the people who have left over the past 2.5 years, and we're at, almost 45 million plus people leaving their jobs in the past 11 months. Of those people who left, 65% of them left the industry they were in entirely. They left and they're not coming back. And some industries got hollowed out. Travel was one of them. Healthcare, retail. We lost about 1 million people in the travel industry. Raise your hands if you felt a little bit of that. Raise your hands if you're like, where did everybody go? Does anyone want to know where did everybody go? I see double hands up. Like, where the hell did everyone go? Guess what? We're going to answer that question today. It's probably the number one question I get asked from leaders. Where is everybody? I'm going to tell you where they went and why they left. And we're going to talk about how we can build what I think is a really exciting future. So number one, we're fighting harder to keep our existing talent. And then secondarily, we're all competing for a smaller and smaller pool of potentially qualified talent in the marketplace. So if you're here right now and you're tasked with growing the business, yes, technology will support that, but it usually takes a fair amount of people, particularly in the hospitality space. So in order for us to grow and create exceptional client experiences, I need people. And the challenge is, the reports just came out from the Bureau of Labor, we lost another roughly we have 10.6 million open positions in June. There are 2 job vacancies for every 1 job hunter. So what does that mean? That means you've got to ask, why would anyone want to join your team or your organization? We have to have super compelling employee value propositions. We've got to be able to shape super compelling employee experiences. And for those of you who are running business travel programs, right, you have such an important role that you're playing in shaping the experience that so many of your colleagues have today. And guess what? The future of work is changing the future of business travel, isn't it? So you play a vital role in this. Now, we have a chance to rethink, redesign, and reimagine what this can look like. And I'm super excited that the planning team followed me up with a panel of really inspiring leaders to have a discussion. I'm going to give you some perspective, the research, some trends, things people aren't paying attention to. And then you're going to hear from leaders talking about how it's unfolding for them, led by Scott, and I'm really excited for that. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you 3 big questions as we think about where the world of work, leadership, and talent moves next. This is how the research team and I sort of approached what was happening in the early days of COVID. I just sort of let my curiosity guide our primary research. And the first question that I asked, and we're going to ask and answer today, was this question of what matters now. This was the first place we started. So I'll first just acknowledge, if we go back to the early days of the pandemic, and you think back March, April timeframe, and you will all feel this, 90% of the work that my organization delivered to clients, the advice, the research, the perspective happened in the real world. And so in the first 4 to 6 weeks of COVID, I watched as about 75% of our projected revenue went to 0. And, at the time, and many of you were in these conversations, no one could tell us, when are people going to feel comfortable enough to sit in a room like this again? When will we actually be back in person? Nobody knows. And as a small business owner with a team and staff that are looking at me, how long can we go without generating revenue? How much will we have to change the value we create for clients if we can't physically be on site? And there was a moment for sure in June of last year where I wasn't 100% sure we were going to make it. And the only reason I say that is because there is so much gratitude in my heart right now to be standing in a room with all of you here together, getting to do this live. We're still here. Thank you. I'm so grateful. So grateful. To Terry's point, thank God we're not looking at each other on screens. That plays an important role. We still need that, but thanks for this. And so once we got through the hump, we made it. We're still standing. I gathered the team and I'm like, okay, we're going to get thrust into the moment. Like, we need to be prepared to help clients. And we need to be rooted in the research. What does the data tell us? Not sort of our gut feelings. Well, let's ask some big questions. This was the first question, what matters now? Now, why did we ask this question? The reason I started here is because what I wanted to understand was how all of our values were shifting and changing through this moment we were going through. I wanted to understand our values. And the reason I wanted to start there is because what we know, and many of you in this room know this, what we know from the fields of sociology, psychology, and neuroscience, that what we value ultimately determines what we do as human beings. In fact, the final sort of decision-making, filtering question, the prefrontal cortex part of the brain, which is essentially the CEO of the brain, before you take an action, your brain runs it through a question that simply says this: does this action, this thing I'm about to do, does it align with my values? And now you may be conscious or unconsciously aware of the value it's in alignment with. The very fact that you came here today, you're sitting in this room, speaks to a value that you carry. Now, if those are changing and it's a primary way, right, if I'm in the business of influencing outcomes as leaders or with our clients, I want to understand how values are changing. And when you look at the data, in fact, Oracle came out with global research at the end of 2021, 30,000 people surveyed around the world, and they found that, number one, 93% of people said they had reflected on their values over the past 2 years. Maybe even more interestingly than that, 88% of people said they had a new definition of what success looked like for them in their life. I want you just to drop into it for yourself for a second and think. You know, we've gone through a collective existential experience. What do I mean by that? Every one of us in this room, over the past 2.5 years, in a moment of silence, in a quiet morning drive into the office, a quiet glass of wine or a coffee in the morning, paused, reflected, and asked some of life's biggest questions. Who am I? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? What's important to me and my family? What are the experiences I want for us? What am I willing to sacrifice in pursuit of success? How do I want to design my life moving forward? Raise your hands in this room if over the last 2.5 years, let's say you made something more of a priority or less of a priority in your life over the last you made something more important or less important, raise your hands. Let me just see some hands. Like, yes, it was like we evaluated all of it. This is a once in our collective generation moment that we all went through. And so now this impacts how and why each and every one of us show up to do the work that we do. It led to actions and behaviors of us making moves. Now, where did everybody go? Well, there's a couple of buckets. We've all heard the term the Great right? The Great Resignation, the Great Reorientation, the Great Restructuring, the Great Re. If we break it down, there really were 3 big buckets that people went into. Where did everybody go right now? Firstly, it was a reshuffling. People leaving industries. We talked about it before. 65% of people who voluntarily left their positions left the industry as a whole. And travel is at the top of that list. Those people left, and many of them are not coming back. So it puts you in that place of like, okay, so we're either leveraging new technology to automate processes, or we've got to have a compelling enough value proposition to bring people back to an industry they said they wouldn't come back to. They reshuffled. They left the industry. Number 2, they reinvented. We have a whole group of people who launched side hustles, became an entrepreneur, the gig economy, independent contractors, launched businesses. They're like, I'm going to go build my own thing. I'm never going to be beholden to an organization holding my future. I'm going to build my own. It's going to be really tough to bring those people back. And third, and absolutely not least, was a reassessing. How many of you know someone who stepped out of the workforce because of either an early retirement or to take care of family, raise children? Raise your hands. They stepped out. They're like, it was early. Yeah, most of us in this room. My mom was one of them. You know, maybe it was about going home to raise families, a reprioritization. They're not coming back. So that's where they went. Why did they leave? When we look at the research, and this data is brand new. This is what's fascinating to me. Anytime you look at data and research prior to COVID, I'm not going to say that it has no validity, but in my opinion, we have to be looking at research now because we've changed. And so McKinsey actually just released really important research showing, and I'm going to bring this graph up. So on the left-hand side, we've got top factors driving retention, reasons why people stayed in that upper quadrant. And then in the bottom quadrant, we have top factors driving attrition. What were the top reasons that people left? What were the driving factors? Now, what's important is that this is between April 2021 and April 2022. So this is right now. This is in this moment after people have gone through this experience. Now, if you're willing to do it, and there's no right or wrong answers here, but maybe just shout it out. What do you think is the number one reason why people left over the past year? Somebody shout it out. Number one reason for leaving. Work-life balance, thank you. It's a beautiful answer. What else? Stability. Money. All good answers. A lot of times when we ask that question, a lot of responses we get is money, compensation. Leaders are like, well, the big reason I'm talking to people is they can get paid 25% more if they leave. How do I afford to keep them? It was not the number one reason why people left. Number one reason for losing people was actually career development, opportunities to learn and grow. Good news about this is we have full control over this. Doesn't matter what our budgets are. So it's about, I want to be able to expand both personally and professionally. Number two, closely behind that was, of course, compensation. And then third, and not far behind, and I think this is a really important lever, particularly when we think about the hospitality space, which can be a meat grinder. It can be stressful. It can be difficult, challenging. You're constantly putting out fires, is caring and inspiring leaders. Number three reason why people left. I don't think that my manager cares about me as a human being. It's not a soft thing. It's a top driver. So if we're looking at that and like, I don't have a lot of discretion left in my budget to pay people more, I have things at my disposal to pull on. Now, top reasons for people staying, number one, mental health and well-being. Of course, huge, huge. Raise your hands in this room if your organization offers some support around mental health and well-being. Maybe it's as simple as memberships to an app, Headspace, encouraging meditation, resources and access to talk people, to talk therapy. Amazing. Love to see so many hands up. Huge aspect. Number two, flexibility. So herein lies the flexibility. Herein lies, right, that craving and that needing to be able to work from anywhere at any time. Now, when I look at this and I think about, for many of you who are like, especially on the property side, you're like, we have to physically be on site. It's not an option for us. Guess what? We don't have an excuse. We have all sorts of levers that we get to lean into, but they're more important. The number one reason why people stayed, meaningful work. It's not a soft thing, gang. So when we sit in this place of leadership, it's like we have levers to pull that have nothing to do with not being able to pay people more money or not being able to offer flexible and remote work. Those are excuses, but it does make our jobs more challenging. You got to care deeply about people. What matters now? It's starting to change, but we have the ability to influence. Second question we asked, who holds power? I've been fascinated for over a decade of our research looking at power structures and power dynamics happening inside organizations and the world at large. And we are absolutely in a moment right now that COVID accelerated, where we are moving from a moment of institutional power to individual power, from centralized power to decentralized power. And COVID accelerated it. We actually wrote a book about this called The War at Work a number of years ago, and at the heart of it lies this dynamic tension between essentially two power structures that I think are critically important for all of us who are tasked with designing what this next iteration of work is going to look like in the next decade. These two power structures are what we essentially referenced and referred to as hierarchies and networks. And I want to give you a little perspective on these and how they're manifesting in your team and across the industry in a way that we all need to lean into to innovate and create what's next. So I'm going to bring this visual to life for us. Let's just sort of think about this. If we were to sort of envision the world in which we live in today, we live in a reality based on networks. Networks of information, resources, people, hyper-connected, digitally charged, fueled by automation, machine learning, advanced AI, mobile and digital. This is what we're living in now. But the challenge we have with leading in this world is that most of us in this room didn't come of age in a network. Most of us in this room came of age in a world where the structures, and more importantly, the deeply embedded culture of hierarchy has been our reality. And today, these two worlds, this new emerging world of network, which COVID accelerated, and our existing historical traditional structures of hierarchy, they are at battle with each other. And they are waging war at all levels of society. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One external, and then we can think about how it plays out externally. Like, let's think about this image coming to life in the real world. Let's think back a year ago. How many of you remember the saga, the story, the soap opera that was the Reddit forum Wall Street Bets group and the shorting of AMC and GameStop stock? How many of you remember that story? Raise your hands. Okay, that, for those of you who aren't familiar, we'll break it down, is an example of decentralized network power battling centralized hierarchical power. What unfolded? Right? We had a Reddit forum. So Reddit is essentially, for those of you who aren't familiar, essentially just a social network. People can gather to share information, build community. There's a group that focused on investments, and they identified there was a shorting of these two stocks, and they realized that if we pooled our collective power as individual retail investors, we could potentially move the market. Now, let me ask you a question. We may or may not have any pro-investors in the room, but from your perspective, how much power historically has the individual retail investor, which is all you and I, how much power have we had to influence and move the market? Somebody shout it out for me. How much power do we have? Zero. Thank you. None. We're all aligned. We have no power. Zilch. And yet for the very first time, what happened? Individual retail investors like us gathered together, leveraging network technologies to influence and move the market. And when they did, who got big mad? Traditional power structures, right? The hedge funds were like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's our game. Y'all don't get to play that game. That's our game. And what did they do? They shut down trading on the app because they had the influence. Now, you could say they won the battle, but the war wages on. And in doing so, they revealed their hand. Now, that's an external example. I promise you, you will see, now that you're attuned to this, network power, hierarchy power, battling all the time. Now, how does this play out on our teams? Well, many of you, just like me, we were birthed into an image that looked like that structure on the left. How many of you were birthed into a family structure that felt a little bit like that? I grew up on a 4th-generation farm in Minnesota. Father, grandfather, great-grandfather. There was no debate in my family as to who was in the barn on the pitchfork shoveling the manure out and who was in the tractor driving it away, right? It wasn't like, hey, Gramps, maybe we'll switch it up today and I'll be on the tractor and you'll be on the pitchfork. Right? Now, we laugh, but let's think about what that means. That meant at 8 years old, I understood what? I understood what it meant to be the low person in the organization. And as the low person in the organization, right, we all learned a set of unwritten rules. Unspoken. I see heads nodding. And those rules went a little bit like this. You come into that world and you keep your head down. You keep your mouth shut. Some of you are very familiar with these. You keep your head down, you keep your mouth shut, you work your tail off, you do whatever's asked of you. You do all the jobs that no one else wants to do, and eventually you will ascend into a position with a little more influence, a little more control, a little more impact. But all of a sudden now you have generations rolling in that have been on your team for 4 weeks, and they're like, I got a brand new program idea. We can totally reinvent this thing. And you're like, homie, you need to slow your roll. How about we make sure you know where the cafeteria is first before you reinvent our program? You can give a round of applause for that if you have dealt with that before. I understand. And we just squash all those dreams. Right? We just stomp on them. We're like, get in line, get in order, be patient, wait your turn. And we're like, I don't understand. Didn't anybody teach them this? No, because they were birthed into the network. If you have children in this room under the age of 30, they were born into a network. Not just because they had mobile and digital technologies, but because the family org chart was flattened at home. Mom and dad are no longer seen as authority figures. their peers. You ask teenage girls who their best friend is. What do they say? Mom. We're listening to the same music, wearing the same clothes, trading the same TikTok videos back and forth, laughing at them, making the TikTok videos together. And then we wonder what has happened. Now, okay, so we're left with it. What do we do about it? Great. So these forces are unfolding. This is not a message to say hierarchy is dead, bad, or doesn't support us. 99.9% of the organizations I work with are not blowing up their org chart, and I'm not suggesting that you should. What I am saying is that to build the future of work, we have to unlock the power of both of these forces or get rendered irrelevant. So how do we unlock both as a leader? Well, let's think about what they do. Hierarchy, if you really distill it down, what does it give us? What does it provide for us? Certainly hierarchy showed up in nature. It's baked into our DNA. But from an industrial enterprise standpoint, what does it do? Well, hierarchy essentially provides stability, clarity, and predictability. But with those things came historically very little freedom. Right? We design a program, we design a process, you don't color outside the lines, stick with the program, you know who you report to and who reports to you, and it doesn't change that often. And the marketplace around us doesn't change very often either. And it makes us feel safe, it's stable. What about network? Well, network provides freedom, but with that freedom comes ambiguity and uncertainty as things change and move very fast. And gang, just a note on the tech front, I'm launching forward and it's not going, and if it doesn't, that's fine, but just a heads up. Network provides freedom. So we're looking at these two and we're like, how do I harness as a leader today? I want just enough structure, just enough order so that people feel safe. But I want to try to pump as much freedom into the equation as possible so people can expand and learn and grow and take advantage of opportunities to contribute and bring big ideas. You see, the image on the left, beautiful, here we go. The image on the left was historically about individual intelligence. You think about it, for many of us, we sat in all of the seats as we moved up that world. You did the roles, you did the responsibilities, and now you have the information. And so you were tasked as a leader with essentially predicting and then controlling the system. Because you sort of knew. But let me ask you a question. How many of you today have people working for you with skills and knowledge that you don't have? Raise your hands. You've got people working for you with skills and knowledge that you don't have. Most of the hands in the room. That's exactly right. And so if I'm leading in a world where many of the people I'm tasked and responsible with have skills and knowledge that I don't have, it now becomes not about my own intelligence. In fact, if it's about my intelligence, I hinder the organization. It is now about the collective intelligence. And as a leader, our responsibility becomes about sensing and empowering. Sensing what's happening, sensing how the marketplace is changing, sensing the dynamics, and then empowering the people closest to the problems to be able to make those moments count. You think about how that plays out in the hospitality space, right? Arming our frontline staff in the moment to have the autonomy, the authority, the discretion to make a client's day, to be able to bring new ideas. It is no longer about your individual intelligence. Now that means releasing the reins, and it can be scary. I want to harness both of these worlds, these structures. Who holds power today? We all hold power. Leadership becomes about empowering. Last question I'm going to leave you with, and then I'm going to invite the panel up. What drives engagement? I've been fascinated by what motivates and moves all of us as human beings. What activates us? What inspires people to get up and go to work for certain organizations and leave others? Now here's the reality. There are 4 decades plus of research around what drives engagement. Right? Gallup's been studying this forever, and there's a laundry list of things that we have historically pointed to that drive engagement. You know, is it a clear and compelling vision of the future? Is it trust and confidence in leadership? Is it opportunities to learn and grow? Is it like what McKinsey found this past year, leaders who care about me as a human being? You know, it's been all of those things. And I see heads nodding of like, you know this data. Here's the problem. We're still in a place where 70% of people are underengaged or disengaged in their work. Like, that's just a fact. And I feel like we've just accepted it as a reality. But there's only one of two things that can be true. Either we are collectively terrible as leaders, or maybe we don't have all of the right information about what drives people. It can only be one of those two things. Well, fortunately for us, brand new research was revealed this past spring. 50,000 people in a global environment, global research, pointing to one factor to unlock engagement, discretionary effort, to get people to bring their full selves. And it came down to one single word. And that word was love. Love. Now, what do I mean by love? Specifically, what was asked is every single day, I have the opportunity and the chance to do work that I am good at and that I love. Now, some of you were just said to yourself, crap. I have good news for you. This is not a message of you need to go do what you love all day, every day. That doesn't exist. This is a message of finding the love in the work that you do. And the good news is it's not all day, every day, 24/7, 7 days a week. What the research shows came out of the Mayo Clinic, the optimal amount, the premium number is 20%. Can 20% of the time, can I be doing work that fills me up? So I want you just to think in your mind here real quick with our last 60 seconds. What is one aspect of your work that you get to do that you love, that fills you up? And when I ask leaders this, oftentimes it's, it's developing other people. It's solving problems internally or for our clients. I love making somebody's day. And you know what? I don't get to do it all the time, but here's your prompt. Find ways to bake more of it into your schedule. First of all, become aware of it. What does? Because when we say love, what do we mean? It goes back to McKinsey's research of meaningful work. It's about work that energizes you. You know, when the time just passes by, you're like, how did those 2 hours just go by? That's the love. So here's your message. Number one, find the love for yourself. Remember the love. As an industry, we have all, if I consider myself a part of it, it's been a difficult 2.5 years. We survived. We made it. You're still here. Remember what you loved. Number two, help your people find their love. Every day, help them identify, help them to see it, help them to tease out more of it. And last but not least, love your people. And I know I did just say that you can't be a leader today unless you love people. And I know some of you are thinking, Seth, I barely love my family. You're asking me to love my staff. Yes, love. Love them by wanting goodness for them in their life. Love them by seeing yourself in another. You know what? Raise your hands if you can be hard to love in this room. You're a little hard to love sometimes? If you're not raising your hands, you're one of those people. I promise you, we all are. See that in yourself. Find the love. Help your people find the love. Love your people. Let's go create a future of work we can be proud of. The future of work is not just happening. The future of work is going to be built, and we are the architects. We just have to be brave enough to build it. Thanks for a great morning, gang. Let's go. Have a day.
I think the most impactful component of Win It is that it is purely focused on gender equality. I founded Win It in 2014. I was thrilled when GBTA came and acquired Win It because GBTA has the global reach, the brand, the ability to be able to reach more women and men, and it really has made a difference in blowing up our ability to create awareness and to elevate the programming and to reach more people in more countries than we ever would have been able to do on our own.
It is such a sense of community, right? It's a place where you can go and find a sounding board who understands some of the struggles and challenges that you go through in this industry. There's nothing like it. And I really like the fact that there was no alienation of any group and gender. It was all inclusive and very, very inspirational.
We all have the ability to learn every day and to do something to both pay it forward in the industry as well as become a better version of ourselves. It's all there within Win It.
Please welcome the moderator for today's panel, founder of Envoy, Scott Wayne.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, raise your hand if you're not an American. You are welcome for what comes next. So my monthly anti-American joke is this. What is the difference between an American university and a British university? Yeah, in a British university, the students walk into the lecture theater, the professor says good morning, they say good morning back. In an American university, the students walk into the lecture theater, the professor says good morning, and they all write it down. Well, this morning, I don't want you taking notes. We're not taking leadership lessons here. We're not taking tools and tactics for your careers from these two human beings. We're just going to get to know two humans. So staying off the stage is the chief executive of Enterprise Holdings and the chief executive of Southwest Airlines. But coming onto the stage are two of my newest friends, Chrissy Taylor and Bob Jordan, I think his name is. Come on up, guys.
I'm making him dance. Where am I sitting?
Chrissy.
Where am I?
Chrissy, I think you're
on the move, Bob.
I don't have any moves.
Sorry.
My team knows I like to dance, so I sort of was like trying to make him. I see the head, Bob. Thank you very much.
My team knows I'm clumsy. Okay.
Just own the move.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so
how are you?
I'm pretty all right. I have a list of questions here that are pre-approved
Oh.
by all of your handlers and all of your press people. And there's fixed answers. We can do one of two things.
And you didn't tell us any of those, by the way.
Right.
We can read these off, or we can throw them away. What would you like?
Throw them away. I actually want to know who flew on Southwest here today. Woo!
All right.
Right?
All right. Who did not fly Southwest?
You got some work to do.
Yeah, whatever.
You got some work to do.
All right, we are going to
All right, back to you.
Okay, sorry.
Well, first of all, actually, let's talk about you as human beings. How are you? How are you really, Chrissy?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm really good, actually. We just finished our fiscal year, so Happy New Year. And you know what? The last 2.5 years, that's when I became CEO, January 2020. So I had terrible timing, but I have learned so much. And what is really important is how inspiring our team is and how everyone has stepped up to all the headwinds, to all the challenges. But most importantly, they have stepped up to every single opportunity that is in front of us. And so our people are absolutely the best. And also our customers. I should say, our partners in the room. How are you all? Oh,
We're sleepy and a little hungover, I think is the answer. Bob, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, and you have tenure, by the way. I'm only 6 months in.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to join because there's so much going on. But the biggest joy in my life as a CEO now is to be able to be out with our people. The people of Southwest Airlines are wonderful. I always say we hire the best people. They work hard, but they're also low ego. They love to serve others, and there's no better day than being out with the people of Southwest Airlines. There's a lot of challenges in the airline industry. The whole goal right now is just to get a little better month to month to month. But no, it's an awesome industry, not for the faint of heart, but I'm truly enjoying it.
So I want to talk to you both about that. I want to talk about this magic that you have in both of your companies. So when we were asked to join GBTA and facilitating some of these conversations, I decided, and I knew it was going to be the two of you, I spent some time as I was traveling, so as I was picking up a car at National or Alamo or Enterprise, or as I was in the airport flying Southwest, just talking to you people, but you're real people, not the people you're sending here, the people who are doing the work, front line, yes you lot, they were doing the work, and it was genuinely fascinating. Bob, for your crew, I had flight attendants and check-in clerks talking about how they could live their mission of service through. Chrissy, I noticed particularly with young women in your stores who would get emotional about the career paths and all those things that Seth was talking about as he closed up here. So what are you doing as CEOs? Like, what do your days look like in terms of connecting with your people?
So there's a couple things that we do, and I think, people used to just want to work for a company because they had a job and, they get a paycheck. But now employees and candidates that we're interviewing want to work for
purpose-driven companies. There's a greater vision, there's a greater mission there, and they want to know how they connect to that greater mission and vision. And a lot of that comes down to not just the metrics and what they're doing every day, but how they're solving problems for our customers and the value that they bring, but then also all of the communities in which they live and work in. And so our foundation plays a huge role in that, in giving back and how they play a role into that. Also, mental health and well-being plays a part in that, and making sure that we as an organization are taking care of them. And we were talking about one example on the back, because you're probably going to bring it up. We went on a visit to, it was in Mississippi, and we got on stage, and people know that I like to dance, and so I'm like, oh yeah, let's dance, Bob. And so we went, so the branches know that, and so we went to one of our locations in the middle of Mississippi, and we were running late. The branch was already closed, and they were all lined up on the parking lot, every single one of them. There were about 20 people. They had the music blasting, and they were dancing because they knew that I like to dance. And then I was like, stop the car! And we got out, and we all had a big dance party at our location, and it was amazing because we know and I know how hard every single person is working, and it's a team sport.
But that's not calculated. That's not somebody saying, hey, we're going to stage this press event and have it captured. That's just you being you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your people being you.
In a weird way, yeah.
Yeah, in a very weird way.
At the end of the day, whatever if you profess that you have a culture, it has to be real. It can't just be words on a piece of paper. It's got to be what our employees
feel. But Bob,
feel.
there's a lot of that. Like, let's not. I mean, we're seeing CEOs tweet all kinds of statements, and then the culture of the companies inside don't match that. So how do you make it real?
Several things. You have to understand what your values are. You have to understand what you stand for. We went through a process a couple of years ago to really tighten that down, and we have 9 words that we stand for. Things like service with love. Second, when our employees and our customers show up in an airport, they have to feel it. It has to be real. And you know when it's fake, and you know when it's real. And third, our leaders have to live it out. Our leaders have to demonstrate and mentor, and you have to be out there. I spent the first 6 months, we announced my change 6 months early, so I had 6 months of learning. Maybe they felt like I was a little remedial and I needed a long time, I'm not sure, but I spent most of that 6 months out traveling, being on airports, and not to serve myself, but just to be out there and show our employees that I care. There's no better way to understand what is happening than be on the ground and demonstrate those values to our employees, because they're wonderful. They want fulfillment out of a job. They don't want just a paycheck. They want to feel like they're working for a cause that's bigger than themselves.
But this has been an extraordinary time for you.
It has.
So what are you saying right now to your employees that have just been full pelt trying to keep this thing running over the summer?
You know, it's been tough. So and we're all ready to put COVID in the rearview mirror, but it's been a very stressful 2 years. And to me, it would be disrespectful to say, well, that period's over, let's move on. Because for our flight attendants and our pilots, they were in masking all day, and so many procedures. And so you have to be out there I think, talking to folks about how you understand what their day is like. Apologizing for the fact that sometimes they get mandatory. They don't get to spend the time with their family that they expected.
Right.
And I talk to folks, and I don't want to dredge up COVID, but for some, COVID was an annoyance, and my restaurant was closed, and for others, it was tragic. I talked to a lady in Las Vegas that she lost 7 family members to COVID, and you just can't let that go by. You have to look her in the face, tell her that you care, really care. Surround her with love, surround her with caring, and make sure she understands that the Southwest family isn't just words on a paper. If we're a family, we have to demonstrate it. We have to surround her and love on her.
So you can't fake giving
it
down.
You can't fake it.
You have to give it down.
I think being out in our operations, because we spend a lot of time on the road. We were in Canada, we were in 4 cities, 3 days. Then we're going across the country. We're in Spain and Germany and all the places. Is really just take the time and listen. I mean, they just want to, we need to be visible, and all of our leaders need to be visible, but we need to stop and listen and not just say, hey, this is what corporate's talking about. This is what we're trying to do. And then being like, hey, I just had a really hard day. Can I just tell you what's going on? I think that's really important. And then also taking checkpoints in time and the pulse of the organization. Right. So we've got a survey, like many of you have engagement surveys. We have your voice counts. We've shortened it way down. It's 12 questions. And then then we can continue to get the pulse in different divisions and where everybody's head's at and what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And then immediately we need to have an action plan, because you can't listen and you can't have a pulse on the organization and get the results and not have an action plan or equip our leaders to then develop one. So we have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years doing that.
Exactly.
And when things are uncertain, that's the biggest time you need to be out listening to the team.
Well,
That is the one time you actually need to
had that
face
in
it.
common. we had our first calls and like, we're talking about the future of work, and you both said, well, we don't know yet, do we? Like, we're still working this out, which is very different because we do see a lot of statements from chief executives saying, the future of work's this, and then 6 weeks later they're tweeting something different.
Those statements have changed about every 3 months, by the way.
Yeah, so you're both flexing and listening. Is that right?
Yeah, I think, at corporate and our admin offices, we can be, hybrid, remote, in the office. We're embracing that flexibility and that hybrid work. But again, we don't know what's going to stick. But a majority of our employees are out in our locations, out at airports. Yeah. They have been reporting every single day to work. And so 2 things that we're really focused on is our certainty, because things get backed up at the airport and weather comes in and all of that. Also, our home city locations, we have big accounts that say, hey, can you stay open till 7? And so that hour certainty is important, and then improving hours. And improving hours could just mean, hey, I need time to go on my sales call, but I didn't have time because we got really busy. It's like we need schedules and some certainty.
We have exactly the same thing. So if you're in the headquarters support service, it's easier to have a hybrid or work remote if we allow that. In the airports, though, you don't have that. You've got to show up, you've got to work in the airport, work in the aircraft, and what you can do for those folks is make sure, number one, get staffed, so we have enough people to fly the product that we've committed to, and then number 2, give them certainty because of that around their schedule. Yeah. Everybody wants to go home and sleep in the bed that they intended, see their family at the time that they were promised and intended on their schedule. So the more that we can ensure that they work what they thought they were going to work through the schedules, the better. And a lot of that comes from staffing.
But are you doing the work to strip away everything possible so that your teams can spend time with customers instead of paperwork?
Yeah, we pride ourselves on being simple, flexible, and the more that you can move transactions off of an employee, even a customer, and let them spend their time interacting with them directly. We're constantly working on tools. You want to take friction out, so the more things that you can do on your device. We're just announcing something called Southwest Business Assist here while we're at the GBTA. Thank you very much.
Wait. Was that just an announcement?
Shameless plug. It's all for you, by the way. And
what is that?
The whole point is to allow you to handle things yourself without having to call Southwest Airlines, without having to take 10 steps when 2 would do. But it's all about putting tools in front of our customers and our employees
but that's as much
to make their lives simpler.
Yeah, okay, so help simplify lives.
Sorry, and a really important point is, we focus so much on what our customers want. And they are telling us just what you said. Yeah. They want to reduce friction. They want control. They want personalization, digitize this thing, predictability. Like, they talk about all those things. And it's like, wait a minute, what do our employees want? Newsflash, they want the exact same thing except from their perspective. Once you start enhancing and taking the friction out of that customer experience, it can make the employee's job incredibly hard. And so the EX, or the employee experience, needs to be moving along with the customer experience. And then you marry that up with tools and technology and your new Assist program. And that actually is a winning combination. But it takes more time to do that.
What you find is, companies talk 90% about the customer experience and about 10% on the employee experience. And it's just as important because in the same way that an employee can deal with their bank right off an app, they want to be able to deal with their work life in exactly the same way. So I think you need to focus just as much on the CX.
You're thinking about both the employee experience and the customer experience.
Exactly. And you need to focus. You need an equal focus on both of those because that's not just provide your customers a better quality of working with Southwest Airlines. For your employees, it provides a better quality of life working with Southwest Airlines.
Because it's so cultural. Our people are the most valuable thing that we have. We love our people, and we are people intensive, and so we've got to make sure their experiences, we're exceeding their expectations as employees. That's critical.
Can we step back a little bit from the companies? You touched on communities. You're very passionate about having started in communities. there's a lot going on in the world right now. Sustainability, diversity, equity, inclusion, opportunity. Just where are your minds currently on all of this? And, related to the company, but how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, so I'll start, is that okay? So we didn't start at an airport. My grandfather actually founded Enterprise in 1957, and we started in the neighborhood. And so neighborhoods are what have made us so successful. And now we have 10,000 locations globally, and so we can have high impact on individual communities and understand how we can all grow together. And that reflects itself in DE&I and our Road Forward New Initiative program, which is awesome, and also sustainability. And I think people immediately go to, oh, when is your fleet going to be electrified? Well, for us, it's not really about throwing hundreds of thousands of EVs into our fleet. It's about creating a sustainable marketplace where communities can thrive and all have access to mobility. Meaning, we need to make sure that we are a thought leader in this and bring in stakeholders, charging infrastructure. Customers are hesitant.
There may not be charging infrastructure in underserved communities.
In underserved, yep, we were talking about this earlier, that if we just go and put EVs in, we're going to miss part of our customers that have no access to charging infrastructure. It's inequitable. It's not, they need to be able to charge and get these vehicles. And so we've partnered with the League of National Cities to do a capstone program to lay out a blueprint that talks about how you would do that in all communities, because that's what's made us successful. And so it's about sustainability for both our employees, our communities, and our partners, and that means being a thought leader.
Well, and you go back to family. At Southwest Airlines, we go back to family all the time because we talk about ourselves as a family. The family includes the community. If we go in to serve a community, we go in with no idea that we're going to pull back. We're not going to leave. We're going to be a member of the community and serve the community, whether that's through community volunteering hours, it's free tickets, it's whatever it takes. But they're a partner. They're not just a group that you draw business from. They're a partner. And the more we can serve them, just like we serve our customers and serve employees, the better. As you think about things like ESG, it's just so important. I mean, it's in how you talk to your shareholders now. It's how you report from a governance perspective. But more than anything, it's the right thing to do. And at Southwest Airlines, we start with really basics, which is the very first question is, what is the right thing to do in this situation? Yeah. And you cannot ignore this question. And for an airline, it's very complicated because engines burn jet fuel. They don't burn something else, they burn jet fuel. So we have ambitious goals to create sustainable aviation fuel, so something that's created from very clean sources, and then ultimately working with our partners, aircraft and engines that burn very clean fuels, basically things like hydrogen that emit water vapor. But those things are 2045, 2050, but we are extremely focused on sustainability because it's important to the planet and it's important to our business customers and our employees and our customers all across the United States.
Okay. Let's bring this back to you two as we wrap up. Seth referred to finding love in the work that you do. When you go home at night, exhausted, I suspect, given the responsibilities you have to carry.
Too much dancing.
Yeah, way too much dancing. Not on your part, certainly on Bob's part. You need to cut back on the dancing. Where are you finding love? Where are you finding love in your work right now?
Oh, I could talk and I can't. I see the clock. I can talk for 5 minutes, but I can't. But it's really easy because we hire such wonderful people. There's no better day for me in my week than being out at our stations with our employees. No big message, just walking around, talking to them, getting on the tarmac, loading bags into the aircraft because we hire wonderful people, and it is an absolute joy to serve them. People ask me, well, what's been the hardest change this move to CEO, which I never thought would happen. And it's I've always loved the company, and I've always loved our people, but you want the best for them. You want to serve them because they are so awesome. They bring their full effort to work every single day. They have things in life that they want to come to the company, and there's just joy in being able to serve them in any possible way that I can.
I love that. Chrissy?
Yeah, I'm not sure I could say it any better. Because it is our people, and they show up every day. They show up and they solve problems, and we're a privately held family business, and we care about them, and the family cares about them, and we are here to help them and to make sure that we continue to move the business forward, but move them forward. And so, yeah, we love our people. Our team is just awesome. So you said it much better than I did, but our people inspire me every single day to do what I'm doing.
So we have to leave the stage, but I personally believe that these two should have a monthly radio show, and if you think that's a good idea, let's give them a round of applause.
With dancing.
Killed it. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go team.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Woo!
Oh, there's
the Southwest Team Enterprise team. Yeah!
Thank you, man. It's good.
That was great. Thank you.
It's just about reconnecting. It's getting teams together, reuniting. The last 2 years have impacted our industry dramatically. It's impacted the way we work, and it's impacted the way we operate as a team, as we operate as an organization, and even in industry. There's been this pent-up demand to have in-person meetings. And we've all seen and realized over the last couple of years that nothing can replace in-person collaboration. I think whatever the future looks like in terms of how we're in a work environment, those in-person meetings will always be there. DEI is so key. It allows for everyone to have a voice. The future is people, whether it's making sure that people are feeling part of a team, whether they're being included in conversations, whether they're being asked for their ideas. This really allows us as an industry ultimately to reconnect, to reimagine, and to recreate.
Please welcome the 2021 Allied Member of the Year Award recipient, Gary Murakami, and the 2021 Direct Member of the Year Award recipient, Carol Fergus.
Wow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to GBTA Convention. It's great to be here in San Diego. Like some of you, I was disappointed not to be able to make it to convention last year. And as we saw yesterday, there were many, especially at the reception, who were first-timers. And so welcome to you. I enjoyed meeting so many of you last night. And then for others, the serial attendees like myself. So I've personally attended about 20 conventions. So I was that statistic that you probably saw that Suzanne did yesterday. So I consider this my comeback year. And I've been really enjoying getting back here, meeting all of you, back-to-back, face-to-face.
Yes, Gary, there's a lot of love in this room today. Yes, we missed you and many others last year. This marks my second global convention. It's wonderful to see so many of our industry peers this week, including new faces and companies, and I'm grateful to be here. It's truly another milestone and sign for continued recovery. And as we work together to reimagine what's next, there's a lot happening in our industry, a lot to talk about and learn about, and connections to be made, whether you're a global travel buyer, supplier, or partner.
So as we learned today, the future is ours to recreate and reimagine. And people remain at the heart of what we do. And that means building and developing teams. And it also means supporting clients and travelers. Both are fundamental to the success of our entire global business travel ecosystem.
Absolutely, Gary. I can't believe how much we've already covered at convention, and there's more to come. We're grateful to American Express Global Commercial Services for making possible today's Future of Work main stage session. And we want to say thanks to all our presenters and panelists for sharing their valuable insights and expertise today.